Hello and welcome to this video series on HTML for beginners. Now in this video we're going to be talking about text. Your text can be big, it can be small, it can be medium in size, heck, it can be many different colors for that matter. You have several formatting options as well that you can choose from. And then there are the gazillion font styles. The fonts are a way the characters look. Now, you can add loads of pizzazz to your text, and you can easily locate hundreds of free fonts and install them on your computer yourself. Now let's take a look at how we can add fonts to our computer. Now of course I'm going to shoot for the free fonts, and this one site alone has over 1,000 of them, so why not? And now there's also those that are out there that are not free, that cost you a couple of pennies here or there. And you want to also be wary of the rights that you might have. Some of these fonts are user only. In other words, you don't have the right to turn around and sell them yourself or repackage them. So just kind of let that be out there. Now I did a Google search for free fonts, as well as you can do the same, and you can see a little over 4.5 million popped up. So there's a lot of them out there to choose from. Now a couple of them that I've used on several occasions to add to my gazillion font styles I've got are these top two, DaFont and 1001freefonts.com. And I'll just go ahead and open this guy up here and just kind of run through the process with you real quick. Now this is pretty cool because they give you a little bit of a visual idea as to what you're going to be looking at here if you were to download, say this one here. Now let's go ahead and do that real quick. And you got your options depending upon if you're a Mac user or a Windows user. I'm not a Mac user, so I'm going to go ahead and download the Windows version. And I'm just going to toss on my desktop here and Atlas Sketches, and you see they're not very big, so it doesn't take very long. Let's go ahead and close this guy out and unzip them. And I'm using Zip Genius here. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's an awesome little, it's free. I mean, yeah, if you know anything about me, you know that I shoot for the free items first. But anyway, go ahead and unzip that, pull this down here, open it up. You can see there's not a whole lot to these guys. In this case, there's a regular font and an italicized font, and open up the font info. A lot of times this is where you'll find details about the particular licenses and such, or just some more information about the author or the creator that wants to make a buck or two, so they give them out to you for free in hopes you come back later on and buy stuff from them. That's what that stuff is. And what I do, and there's a couple of different ways you can do this, but what I do anyway is I just go ahead and highlight these guys. I hold my control key down and highlight this, highlight all the fonts on here in this case there's only two, but in case there's a whole bunch of them on there, then I just right click and copy. That way both of these are in my clipboard now, ready to be pasted somewhere. Now what I want to do is go into my Windows programs. Come on down to my start button, right click, and then left click on Explore. And I don't know if that all showed in there or not, but see if I can minimize this a bit. See if I can get this to squeeze in here. Get into frame. Okay, here's my C drive here, and going down to Windows. Is that the right one? No, right here. I don't know what the heck that is. Okay, so that opens all this stuff up here. And right here you're going to find fonts. This is in alphabetical order, so right after E somewhere, go into fonts, click on that, give it a second or more, and here's all the fonts on my machine. Now then I just go in here in some clear spot, right click and paste. Right there, we're done. Now, and if you have any, you can go ahead and delete these guys here. I've got a folder on my computer on my external hard drive where I keep all the fonts that I've downloaded, but that's just for my own personal preferences. I'm going to go ahead and delete these guys though. Just to let you know, in the event you happen to have any programs open like GIMP, Photoshop, or Word, anything that would utilize fonts, then those fonts that you just installed are not going to show up in those programs until you close those programs and reopen those programs, just to let you know. So if you install a font while you're trying to do an image with Photoshop, for example, and you go back to Photoshop and see that it isn't there, well, don't try to install it a second or third or fourth or fifth time. Just close out Photoshop, reopen it up, bada bing, bada boom, it's going to be there. So anyway, that's how you install a font. You're going to come to need this guy here, the free font viewer, because after a while, like me, and you get to going hog wild and finding all kinds of cool fonts out there, handwriting scripts, old English scripts, all kinds of, neato type fonts, then you're going to eventually have so many of them that it'll take you for hours to scroll through them all to give you the idea of which one you want to use for this image or for that text, for whatever reason you're wanting to find a font for. So the next thing to do is to check out one of these free and easy, that's just the name here, but I did a Google search for free font viewer, and that's what came up here. Yeah, free font viewer. And there's some out there that you can pay for too, but hey, I'm going to go with the free guys. So you just download this and it pops up. It shows all the fonts and on your system and examples, kind of like the site we were just at. These guys here. This kind of is an idea as to a font viewer, this particular site here, but to have one on your own desktop, that's the cool thing. And of course it's nowhere near this size, so you can see you can view a lot more of them in one full swoop. So anyway, after a while you're going to need a font viewer, so just do a Google search for free font viewer, and the ones that I've got, I've tested a couple of them. This is the one I like the best, the AMP font viewer, but they're all pretty much the same, so whatever flavor you prefer. Okay, so that's how to install the fonts. Now that you know how to add a lot of additional fonts, I feel kind of bad. I need to tell you that it may very well be a big waste of time, because if you add the coolest font in the world, now I'm talking about adding them for text purposes, not for image purposes, but for adding them for text purposes to write sales copy or whatever other reason you would need text fonts for, then the people that's reading your sales letter need to also have that exact font on their computer, or it's going to show up in whatever plain Jane default font they have that is automatically used when an unknown font shows up on their PC or computer. Now I have a lot of font styles on my PC, but I tend to use them mostly for text in images, not text in HTML. Text in images does not matter whether the person looking at the image has that particular font or not, because it's an image, not text. Now, I've heard rumors that in the near future this rule will be obsolete because your computer will be able to pull the exact font style from the internet instead of what is kind of nested in your computer. But until that day arrives, save the fancy fonts for your images and stick with the basics for your text. Now, here's a web page for some of the basic fonts on 99% of the computers and how they look. That is this guy right here. And here's the URL. A little bit of a write-up on what I basically just said, but here's the list of the basics. So if you want to get a little fancy, there is a little bit of leeway here. So what I tend to use a lot of times is Impact. That kind of, well, as you can see here, it's solid. Now Georgia, Comic Sans Serif, these are some pretty good ones here. Check this page out. You'll see that a lot of these are going to be on your computer already if you have not added a whole bunch of them like I've already done. You'll see that Times New Roman and Arial are some of the most popular ones that are being used throughout the internet on different copies. So some additional info down here at the bottom of the page. So be sure and check this page out before you start going hog wild on wanting to add some cool text or a cool font to your HTML text. Now I should also mention that like most anything else in HTML, there are certain tags to use when messing around with various fonts. Now if you said the font tag, opening and closing font tag, then you would be kind of correct. The opening and closing font tags are what they call outdated or deprecated in the latest version of HTML. That's HTML4 and XHTML. Now, what the heck does deprecated mean when talking about HTML tags? Well, I'm glad you asked. The World Wide Web Consortium, otherwise known as W3C, has removed the font tag from its recommendations. So in future versions of HTML, style sheets, that's CSS, cascading style sheets, will be used to define the layout and display properties of HTML elements, which is going to be pretty cool. Now, don't sweat it. We're going to be covering CSS style sheets or cascading style sheets in an upcoming video in this series. But to learn more about the W3C and what they have planned for the future of the World Wide Web, go on over to www.w3c.org. Pretty cool site, and be prepared to hang out for a while if you're an info geek like me, because they got a lot of cool stuff on there. Now this is going to bring us to the end of this video on HTML for Beginners, your text. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something in the process. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.